That's
Uh,
crazy. I
yeah.
mean, just knowing you now and how kind you are and the content that you produce, like you probably in 2023 could have never imagined that you'd ever create content and put yourself out there in that way. So it's hard to hear. It's quite heavy, everything that you've gone through. And yeah, the IBS for somebody that has not had digestive issues, can you tell us like how bad that can really get? I think for a lot of people, they don't realize like how borderline traumatic IBS, IBD, Crohn's disease, it can cause trauma in certain people. Can you tell us what exactly that was like in your, kind of that darkest phase when you really had that flare up before we get to the good part of the story?
Yeah. No, yeah. So basically, the pains were just so awful that sometimes I could barely even do anything else than just lay in my bed and try to find positions to lay in or like ways to like press on myself to like kind of mitigate the pain or something like that, kind of suppress it a little bit. And then 5 seconds later, I have to find a new angle and all that stuff. And then, I would be sitting on the toilet for like hours a day with just being awfully constipated, just trying to press stuff out, but it just doesn't work, right? Completely awful. And then I was so bloated, like looking like a pregnant woman.
Wow.
Uh, and of course, that also affects your confidence in a way, right? Um, and I was just constantly hiding in my room, really. I didn't leave very much, and I tried to avoid even my family, right? I wasn't living at home at the time, but I wasn't really talking to them at all. But when I was home for that summer, actually, I just avoided them all the time, like cancel plans even with my family and all that. And there was this kind of joke within my family, like throughout my entire time of growing up, right? That, oh, we can't make spontaneous plans because we're gonna have to wait for 2 hours for Jonathan to get out of the bathroom, right? Uh, yeah, I don't know if I explained it very well, but basically just constant of being able to go to the toilet. Uh, and just feeling awfully bloated and pain all the time. Sometimes it was debilitating, right? Where I couldn't move. I could barely even get to the toilet 5 meters away from my bedroom, right? Uh, and that stuff, yeah.
Sounds terrible. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's time for some good news. Tell us about how you were able to turn all of that around. That is quite a bit of suffering you've had to go through to get to this point in the story.
Yeah. And yeah, so basically from this big flare up, like IBS attack I had here, that was my turning point where I just started thinking to myself, what can this be? And just logically, to me, it had to be something I was eating. That's what makes sense, right? That's what's going down there. It has to be something I'm eating. I was thinking I might be allergic to something, right? Uh, and I started just going through my mind, like, did I eat something that day that hadn't had in a while, or something like that that I reacted to? And I traced it back to I hadn't had an apple in forever, and I had an apple that day. So what I did was a few days later, I actually tested it by having a piece of apple again, and it came back. So I started connecting the dots to myself, right? Realizing how much what I put into my mouth, into my gut, actually matters, how big of a difference it makes. And just having this real intuitive connection to my body and all of that, right? Just listening to my body every time it's giving me signals of uh, how it's reacting to foods. So I went into this period of kind of like 2 months or something like that. This entire period of my life is kind of a blur since I was so mentally just ruined. I don't actually remember everything, but I try to recall it to the best of my ability, right? So about like 2 months, I did this whole experimentation with my diet, like eliminating foods, trying to reintroduce them, to see how I felt. And just over the course of these 2 months, it seemed like every single time I cut out a fruit or a vegetable, a plant, that's when I started feeling better. And towards the end of this whole period, I sat there having cut out pretty much every single plant food. Keep in mind, at this point, I've never even heard about the carnivore diet.
Amazing. Wow.
I'm actually just experimenting on my own. I'm so desperate. I just need to get some relief from the gut issues. That's what I was focused on, right? And when I just go to have a bite of this avocado with my meal, right? Some eggs, some ground beef, and this avocado, something like that, I it just tastes like absolutely awful to me for some reason. It tastes like poison to me. And I just, since I had decided I'm going to listen to my body with every single signal it's giving me, that's what I need to do right now. I just kind of have to surrender to my intuition, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, my gut feeling. If that's a nice word to use, phrase
Pun
to use.
intended.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I decided this is just my body telling me that shouldn't eat this. I just have to listen to it. So I decided to throw it away. I spit out this avocado, I threw it away, and there I just sat with animal foods left on my plate, nothing else. And from that day on, pretty much I've just been 100% carnivore.
That's amazing. What a crazy story. Did you know enough about nutrition to know that you were making your gut feel better, but you were going to die of a heart attack or something by continuing to eat only meat?
Yeah, so I of course had heard all these narratives myself. I knew enough about nutrition to where, for example, when I cut out all these foods, I knew that for me to have some sort of energy source, I needed to also up my fats. I couldn't sit there eating just lean protein as I was. So I had to do that at the same time. And also, I've heard this cholesterol nonsense, the fiber stuff, uh, and all that. But I think there was just this desperation, right, in me to where I don't know, I think I was so focused on just needing relief from these gut issues. I was sick of living that way that I didn't really think of it just yet. Um, I think I was just focused on getting relief, right? Feeling better. And I was feeling better the entire time. It just wasn't going completely away until I cut out the last piece of those plants.
Yeah, it was just steps in the right direction that was making you feel better. Primarily, did you notice first in the gut, or were you also noticing like a lifting of the depression or the anxiety or anything else that came along with that?
I think, yeah, definitely it started in the gut and then the mind followed, right? Uh, so I can, from the day I went fully carnivore, right? Then what I've come to when I've tried thinking back on this stuff is I think pretty much just 3 days into being fully carnivore, I just woke up that day from a great night of sleep I've never even experienced before, right? I have so much energy, just unlimited, untamable, right? I just get right up from my bed, no like snooze button like I did before, just get right up. It was early morning, like 6, 7, something like that. I was living in the UK at the time. Um, I just suddenly my brain fog was gone. My depression had lifted, right? My anxiety was just completely gone. My first thought was just, does anyone want to do something? Like, I just wanted to do something. And I just went out the door. I just started walking. I just had to do something with all this energy and happiness I suddenly had. Like, for some reason, all the bad thoughts I used to have, it was all gone, like not even a hint of it, and so much energy. I think I walked for like hours on end that day. I just didn't stop walking. I just had to keep going. I couldn't stop. And then that day is actually the same day that I found out about this whole carnivore diet thing on the internet, because it's actually a pretty funny way I found out about this, because I decided I wanted to call my parents. For some reason, I felt like I just need to call them and tell them about this. So when I called my mom, I just started telling her, so I've been experimenting with my diet and this is what I'm eating now. And I don't understand what's happening to me. Why am I, why am I suddenly feeling so good and like I have so much energy? And she told me, I can actually just hear it in your voice. There's something happening here. I can hear like a difference in you, a drastic
Wow.
difference. And she started talking about how she goes to Pilates. And a lot of people in the Pilates community apparently do this sort of diet. She's already heard about keto and carnivore diets through those people. And she's also apparently seen people on the internet, social media doing this stuff. So she already knew about it. And because of that, I could already start looking into it. And I've always been the kind of curious person where I want to learn. Of course, I had this questions, right? The cholesterol, the fiber, all that stuff. And I've always been a curious person, where in class I always kind of got pushed down by the teacher every time I did speak up because I always wanted to know not just this is how something is, but why? Why is it like that? You can't just sit here and tell me that's how it is without saying why it's like that. And then they just shove you to the back, right? And they don't want that sort of question. And I was always that sort of person. So when I get to hear about this, I want to learn, right? Why is this working in this way for me? Why is it affecting my mind, my gut in this crazy way? Why does this work? How does it work? Uh, and can I even keep doing this? Is this safe to keep doing? Which I have discovered. I am very confident this is the proper way to eat for the rest of my life.